Okay, so I'm going to compare the Nothing Phone 2A's battery life with the iPhone 15 Plus's battery life. And I'm going to see how much of a difference there actually is and which one is actually winner. Anyway, phones has the default battery and display settings as you can see from here. And if you look closely, the iPhone actually has 130 cycles in the battery, but it's still showing 100% battery health. So keep that in mind. Now, the Nothing Phone and the iPhone are also set at dark mode in the starting of the video. The Nothing Phone has the default 120Hz dynamic refresh rate turned on, which can switch between 30Hz and 120Hz depending on the content of the display. Now, I'm also going to keep the brightness on both of these phones set at automatic to see how they will behave in different lighting situations, because sometimes I'm going to turn off the studio light. I'm literally starting at 10:55 p.m. but first I'm going to test out the 5G speed, and the reason behind it very simple. It is trying to emulate downloading something really big at a high speed, so I'm going to do it a few times in a row. And you can see from here that the modems of both of these phones, the 5G modems, are actually really good. They're performing as good as they can. And after the test, we can see both of them are still at 100% because it's just not that much battery consuming. Now I'm going to play a YouTube video with full loud volume using my Wi-Fi for literally 1 hour. And in this test, I've turned on this bedtime light instead of the studio light to see how they will react to the lower light scenarios. And the iPhone sadly is staying at a higher brightness than the Nothing Phone in this case. You can see it. Another thing is that I didn't check the temperature using any gadgets because they are still in HVAC controlled rooms. But I have sometimes touched the phone screens to see whether they are that much hot or not to the touch. And then I'm going to move on to a video call which lasted for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to do about 15 minutes of Facebook with the studio light on for a few minutes and then the bedtime light for the other time. And then you can clearly see the battery percentage difference. There is only a 3% difference, but the iPhone is actually at 81% and the Nothing Phone is actually at a better place, 84%. Now it's time for the Temple Run game. And I'm going to play the same game for both of them for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to jump to the phone call literally for 30 minutes. And it actually clearly shows that the Nothing Phone actually turns off its screen while the iPhone actually keeps the screen on somewhat. Now you can keep a track of both battery percentages below them on the screen. Then I did a full 20 minutes of video recording, a 4K 30fps video recording. After that, the Nothing Phone is at 72% while the iPhone is at 70%. Pretty efficient. Then I jumped to YouTube again for 35 minutes and here I did the same thing again. Turn on the bedtime light for a few minutes and turn on the studio light for a few minutes. And the same thing happened again. The Nothing Phone is having lower brightness with adaptive brightness compared to the iPhone in the same situation. So I cranked up the brightness on both of these phones to the max for a few minutes. Then I set it to adaptive mode again. Then I played a little bit of music, a little bit of speed test again, then before jumping into a phone call with navigation at the same time for a little over 18 minutes. And we can see a big difference between these two phones now. The Nothing Phone is actually at 60% battery. Sadly, the iPhone is at 55%, a 5% difference now. So now it's time for me to sleep, and I'm going to lock both of these phones to see how much battery drain can happen overnight. So at 6 a.m. in the morning, the iPhone is still at 55%, at least is showing that. The Nothing Phone only dropped by 1%, which is actually really cool. Then I started the 5G speed test and YouTube for a total of 51 minutes. Majority is the YouTube one. And then I did the Geekbench score, which shows that the multi-core score of the Nothing Phone 2A is same as the single core score of the iPhone. Isn't that pretty cool? Anyway, then I started doing the 3D Mark stress test, which lasted for like 20 minutes. Now you can see that I have already moved on to downloading a new game and installing all the heavy files using my Wi-Fi. And in that period of time, I turned off the studio lights to see how the adaptive brightness works again in this case. And then I cranked up the brightness on both phones to the max. Then for 25 minutes, I put them through both the benchmarks again, the 3D Mark Live, the 3D Mark and the Geekbench. And then I went back to doing Facebook for 10 minutes, casually. Now the iPhone is at 11%, while the Nothing Phone is still at freaking 28%. This is a big difference. So, after 32 minutes of 4K 30fps video recording, the iPhone actually died. Totally. And then I stopped the recording on the Nothing Phone too, but moved on to gaming again. At 10 AM, it's actually at 11%. So it took about 35 minutes or so. Sadly, I needed the phone for the day, so I needed to charge the phone somewhat and redo the battery test again in the night once I get the Nothing Phone down to 11% again to see how long that 11% lasts on this phone. So in the night at 7:16 PM, the phone is still again at 11%. Anyway, I closed all the applications, it is connected to my Wi-Fi, and then I started to play the game, but I stopped. Because I decided to not play the game, because everyone will try to not play a game when the phone is at 11%. So let's do something practical. So I decided to see if I call someone while still using the navigation at the same time with about 11% battery. How much time I have with this phone then. At 7:24 PM, I'm still at 9%. So then I decided to take a 4K 30fps videos for like 15 minutes. And that took quite a bit of hit. I'm at now 4% with slight amount of warmth on the display. So then I decided to do the phone call and navigation at the same time test again. And this time, at 13 minutes of usage, the phone is actually at 1% battery without any heating or lagging issues, like none of those things. Then it took literally 8 more minutes of calling and continuous Google Map usage to kill the battery of the Nothing Phone 2A. I mean, in my eyes, this is a big achievement for this phone because the iPhone 15 Plus is still a battery king. And this phone is doing better than the current champion. That's actually great. Even though we have to consider that it still has 5000 mAh battery compared to iPhone's much more smaller battery, but still, it is really efficient in the Android world. I can say that. So if I count, the screen on time on both of these phones are like this. 7 hours 16 minutes for the iPhone and 8 hours 41 minutes for the Nothing Phone 2A. So this is the time when I push the phones to their limits. So if you use it normally every single day, you will get much more better battery life than what it is showing at this time. Anyway, let's move on to the bonus charging test. And I'm going to do for the Nothing Phone because I just don't want to compare it with the iPhone. The iPhone only charges at 20 watt, where the Nothing Phone charges at much more faster at 45 watts. So I'm starting the phone with 0% battery at 10:27 PM. And at 10:45 PM, it reached to already 31% thanks to its 45 watt charging. It's really quick. And I'm using the CMF GAN charger, by the way, if you're thinking. Now, if you don't know this, now the high wattage charging is usually reserved for the phone when it is at lower battery percentages because that's why it can fill up the battery at much more higher wattage. But once it reaches to a higher capacity of the battery, like 70%, 80% or something like that, then it starts to slow down a bit by bit. and at 11:39 p.m., which is about 1 hour and 11 minutes later, it's fully charged. So yeah, that's totally it. That's the battery test and the charging test of the Nothing Phone 2A. I'm really impressed with this phone's battery and charging capabilities. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And yes, if you feel like you need some really cool wallpapers for your devices, whether it's a tablet or a smartphone or even a laptop, well, I have some crazy cool 8K wallpapers, stunning designs, and amazing colors. Visit my website, joindavid.com, link down below. And until the next one, bye and take care.